Welcome to the Couples Expert Podcast with Stuart Fensterheim, LCSW, your source for the latest tips and practical down-to-earth advice on creating emotionally connected, thriving relationships. Now, here's Stuart.
Good morning and welcome to the Couples Expert Relationship Podcast. This is Stuart Fensterheim, the Couples Expert, and you've reached once again the Couples Expert Relationship Podcast. This is the podcast that hopefully will help you establish and maintain a close, connected relationship with the person in your life that you love and can't imagine not having by your side. I wanted to tell you a little bit about what my week has been like. I turned 60 years old on Friday, and my wife, who I love so dearly, did something pretty special. She threw me a surprise birthday party with all the most important people in my life, and I just want to thank her publicly and just tell her that I can't imagine myself being with anyone else, and that these past few years with her really has made my life significant and has allowed me to really reach for something that I am so passionate about, which is helping all of you have a close connected relationship. Emotionally focused therapy, which is my specialty, is all about connections. And what I just love is the fact that I can really feel the difference in my life, in my relationship with my wife, as a result of what I've done through emotionally focused therapy, the learning that I've gotten, and the experiences that I've had helping all of you and helping all the couples that come through my office. So I just wanted to thank her once again and tell her how meaningful it was to me that not only did she remember my birthday, can't not, turning 60, but really doing something that I know took a lot of time and energy out of her busy day, and she is quite busy through work and some of the personal things that she does, that just knowing that she set that time aside to help me experience my 60th birthday as something not just ordinary. So, Deb, thank you very much. I love you. Today, what we're doing is something really, really important. And it's really something that I've been thinking a lot about because I seem to be having a lot of couples who come through my office that are entrepreneurs. I think that has a little bit to do with where I practice in Scottsdale, Arizona, but a lot of couples who have marriages where one or both of you are in a business, and the struggles that come from that is somewhat unique. So I have found a guest to bring on this podcast, Genevieve Cadell. Genevieve is a woman who I was referred to by a friend of mine who said, this is a woman you want on your podcast. And after meeting her and talking with her, that is so true. You guys are really in for something special. Genevieve practices in a specialty that is just about people who have a business, entrepreneurs. She has an ebook on her site called Your Best Love, and she has been gracious enough to allow me to offer it to all of you free, and you can click on a link on my show notes and receive that in your email. But more importantly, what I've learned about Genevieve is she's kind, considerate, and really is one of those caring souls that takes a very realistic approach to relationships, marriage, and how to make the relationship really important to both of you. Because what she knows is that nothing is more important than feeling the love and connection that you have with a partner. And the other thing as an emotionally focused therapist she knows is that it's not just pie in the sky any longer. We have science behind this. And because when you have a loving relationship, you take more risks, you stretch yourself, that as an entrepreneur, having a relationship where your partner and you feel secure in your love helps you accomplish anything the two of you desire. And that love is the ingredient that will help your business more than anything else. So welcome to the Couples Expert, Genevieve. I'm really excited to have you.
Thank you so much, Stuart, for having me here. I'm just thrilled to be here and excited about our topic today.
Yes, it's an interesting topic, and it's sort of a different kind of topic than I've really had before on the show. So tell me a little bit, I know you're a couples therapist, but how did you get your whole specialization to be just about entrepreneurs? What got you into this?
Well, I got really excited about business when I was ready to leave my job and really go out full force with my private practice. I had a private practice at the time, but it was part-time in the evening, and I knew I wanted to go full-time with it. So I did some business training. I did something called B School, which is run by Marie Forleo. It was like a 6-week online training program. And as a part of B School, you join this Facebook group, right? This was several years back. And I joined this Facebook group full of these entrepreneurs doing really cool things, being more creative than most of us therapists or psychologists or whatever, most of what I see, at least within our confines of our practice, and, just sharing information in different ways. And it got me really, really excited. So I kind of stepped into that a little bit more and did more and more business training as well as a coaching training last year. And I looked around, and as all of these different, it was actually just for women. And I noticed that as they were learning new things, changing their money mindset, how they think about money, recognizing their own potential, something that was a common theme that kept coming up was, oh my gosh, this is causing a lot of stress in my relationship. And so I knew that I had, as an EFT therapist, right, something that we
emotionally focused therapist, the best form of couples therapy that exists, and something that's really revolutionized how I look at everything, is most especially love, of course. I knew that with that training, I could really help these people now starting to really develop their business, create a rock solid relationship. And I knew how important that was for their own business as well. So that was kind of how I got into all this. So first of all, you mentioned something called B School, just because I know some of my listening audience might want to know what that is. What is B School?
Yes. So B School is like a 6-week online or 8-week something. It's like an online training program that's run by Marie Forleo. And she basically helps people take businesses online and just start businesses and just kind of really be kind of up to date with how they run their businesses. So Marie Forleo, Mariefforel. Sorry.
You know what? You don't have to worry about it, because one of the things, and I just want to remind my listeners also, I always do show notes. And the show notes, we'll put that in there, and also show notes about Genevieve and her practice and how to get hold of you if they need to. And the other thing I want to remind you guys, you don't have to take notes, because everything that we're going to do is also going to be transcribed. Awesome. So I transcribed this. So we'll have a lot of that. So am I hearing you that the initially, at least, the focus was helping women who are in a significant relationship not have the stress of the relationship issues in the business, not so much couples who had a business together?
Yes, and that continues to be my focus. So people, okay, whether they're in business together or not, but it's really started with individuals in business who started to grow and change their mindset and had this fear that kept coming up. People kept saying, I think I'm outgrowing my partner. I'm going to leave my partner behind. All of the changes that somebody goes through when they start a business was definitely having an impact on the relationship.
Were these folks that generally did not have business degrees? These are just people who, so they didn't have any of the training of both the business training or the how do you deal with all the pressures that come with it.
Exactly. Right.
And what do you see as some of the most significant stresses in a relationship for people who are in a business?
I think the one of them that that I just said that just keeps coming up is this fear that they're going to outgrow their partner in some way. That the business changes who somebody is really to it. I found that just really going at it in my own business was more effective for me than when I had to go to therapy for grad school. To be honest with you, because it brings up so many of our own insecurities and our fears, and we have to put ourselves out there, and it's really about taking risks, right? And so as these women that I was surrounded by, and myself included, as we were doing this, right, and learning the potential and just all of the possibilities and people were changing their relationship with money. It was almost like they were stepping into a new paradigm, and they felt that their relationship was kind of stuck in this old paradigm. So that fear of outgrowing their partners was certainly one of them. There's also, of course, the financial risk that comes up when somebody decides to go into business for themselves. They say financial problems are the number one, issue between couples. And you and I both know that's just not necessarily the full picture, but that certainly became another cited problem as well. The ability to believe in oneself, and does your partner believe in you? And so that's another piece that came up as well. That continues to come up a lot as well.
Right. And what it's bringing up for me is the whole idea of security in a relationship. How secure do you feel with the love that your partner has for you, and how secure are they with the love that you have? Because one of the things that I can very much identify from is that in my own practice, I decided about a year or two ago to go full fee for service. And which, for those that don't understand what that means, it basically means I don't take any third-party panels or insurance. The biggest thought that I had when I shared that with my wife, because what she automatically went to was what a lot of people who I shared it with, including other therapists, no one's going to come, and you're going to lose your shirt. Basically, you're stupid to do this. Don't do it, because you're never going to fill your books. And for me, the biggest issue that came up between my wife and I is because her fear was, how are we going to pay our mortgage? And so what happened for me is I started getting into this whole mindset of, look, this just proves she doesn't have confidence in me. She doesn't think I'm a good therapist. She doesn't think I know what the hell I'm doing. Does she really see me? And that whole piece of the financial risk that ultimately could have great rewards, but brings up the issue is, how much does she really know me and trust me? And talk about that. How do you deal with that issue with couples?
Yeah. Well, I think that that was it, right? But a lot of people don't know. And a lot of people aren't able to voice that or articulate that because it's something that we're not brought up learning that, we actually have a profound impact on each other, right?
Right.
We hear learning, just do it yourself and you're fine all on your own. And what you and I know as emotionally focused therapists is that we are so much stronger when we're connected, right? So the issue becomes really stressful for someone when underneath they feel, maybe my partner doesn't believe in me. Maybe my partner doesn't see me. Maybe my partner doesn't, think I can do this. What becomes the surface issue is that they get angry, they get hostile, they get resentful. I mean, we can handle this in any number of ways, right? Some people might avoid their partners altogether, is what I found as well, especially among entrepreneurs, and just say, you know what? Screw that guy. I'm just going to go that much further, harder, and stronger in my business. And then the business becomes this whole separate entity that they become engrossed in, and their partner sort of gets shuffled along on the sidelines. Therefore, just kind of, the issue becomes that much worse even. So I guess what you're saying so eloquently and you're articulating is these fears that I think we all have when we go out on a limb and we do something. And, I'm sure there was a part, I imagine, I can't assume, but I imagine there was a part of you that was a little scared too. Right?
Not a little part. Because for me, and also money has lots of meaning, not just dollars or what I can buy, but my family, for example, are almost all entrepreneurs. And I've always sort of felt less than because I was sort of taking the easy route. So part of me doing this was, number one, helping me feel like I am doing what I know I can do, taking those risks. And number two, if I didn't succeed, it meant I was a failure to my family. Mm-hmm. Without saying anything to them. I mean, I never talk about that.
Of course,
I never
we
did.
don't talk about stuff.
No, we don't talk about the stuff that's really going on.
Right. And we know we're supposed to, right?
Right. So that goes to the whole thing, as you're saying, with your partner in terms of those vulnerabilities and what do you do with those?
Right.
And as an entrepreneur, there's so many other issues that also come up in terms of time management. So how do you help couples really get to a place where, number one, they are sort of each other's best support, and number two, not allowing the stress to really take over and become more important than what's happening in their relationship?
Yeah, well, I think, it happens on a couple of different levels. One is sort of just doing things like this with you, right? Educating people that there's more that's happening underneath the surface. Pay attention, slow down. What's really happening? Don't look away from the problem. If there are these feelings, it's because you're human. It's because, you have these real needs to connect with your partner. And I often use the metaphor that, when there's that sort of pebble in your shoe and you're walking, it's like, you don't need to deal with it, right? But then after a couple miles, you got a ripped up and bloody foot. So that's one layer, is just sort of educating people about this, because no one's going to run in droves to meet with an expert about their problems. You and I both know that as well, unless they're at a point where they're pretty bad. Mm-hmm. So a lot of it is preventative, right?
Right.
Doing things like reading Sue Johnson's Hold Me Tight book, which I'm sure you'll put in the show notes. I'm sure you've recommended it a million times.
Yes.
That helps couples. Checking out my book, which you'll share with your audience, whatever we can do to educate people. So that's one layer. Now, the second layer, right, when I actually work with a couple who's at the point of, can we actually do this together, is really just sort of what we learn in EFT or in emotionally focused therapy a lot, with also a focus on the business, but just to kind of slow things down and help people really connect to what's really happening, right? Mm-hmm. What's really going on. It's not just that you're frustrated with your partner that, maybe he doesn't believe in you, or maybe he doesn't, support your business, or maybe he's negative, right? That's another one I hear all the time. Oh, my partner's just so negative, right? It's really looking at what's happening. Well, why is your partner so down on your business? Maybe because your business has swallowed you whole and your partner doesn't know if your partner really even matters to you. That's one piece of it, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe, just really kind of like slowing things down and bring up some of those questions that you brought up that were kind of going through your mind, and having people tell them to each other and ask them, like, do you believe in me, right? Do you think I can do this? Do I matter to you? I mean, those sort of questions that are really at the basis of the heart of all conflict between couples.
Right. And I think the other piece that comes up is like the questions you just posed. Do you believe in me? And then when the question gets asked, sometimes what I see with couples is it gets answered affirmatively. Yes, I believe in you. But then the person in the business doesn't believe the answer.
Yes.
Doesn't believe that you really believe in me because they don't experience it that way. Right. And that's where the whole EFT experiential piece comes in. And I think one of the questions, I guess, for those that are not in counseling, for those that are not working with an EFT therapist, are there things that couples can do to help that piece as far as you're concerned?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the major problems I see among entrepreneurs is that they don't actually spend time together, right? Because the business can become this super engulfing third entity. And, I think even just recognizing the profound impact that you have on each other, and recognizing that, oh, actually, you know what? You're wired to have a connection and a relationship with your partner. And it's important to talk about this stuff. So, I'm a big proponent of mindfulness, awareness as well. So basically, for all of us as individuals to really be able to slow down and to really ask ourselves, what's really happening for me on all levels, right? a big part of emotionally focused therapy is helping people understand and recognize what's happening underneath the surface, right? We have different layers of experience, and we often only access that sort of top layer, whether it's frustration or whether it's just wanting to shut the other person out. If you dig a little bit deeper and try to understand what's really happening when you get frustrated with your partner, what's really happening when you just want to, throw yourself into your work, what often might be happening is something that's a little bit more difficult to experience, a little bit more vulnerable, whether it's feeling scared that maybe you're not important, feeling, maybe a little rejected, that maybe you're not good enough. Whatever it is, whatever those things are, I encourage everyone to spend some time really trying to access that. And if you can then go to your partner with that, now this is not easy, right?
Right.
But if you can go to your partner from this vulnerable place and really ask what's really happening, right? And really turn to them instead of, criticizing them or shutting them out, coming to them from that more vulnerable place and saying, hey, you know what, you really matter to me. What you think about me, how you feel about me, how you feel about my work, it really matters. I really want to talk to you about this. If you can come to them from a more vulnerable place, and this is not easy necessarily, but that's really the key here, is sort of getting down to the heart of what's really going on and connecting about that. So actually spending time together and being able to create enough safety so that you can do that with each other.
So you're really saying setting time aside to do that?
Well, first of all, being with each other.
That's what I'm talking about, because so many entrepreneurs, what I hear is that we don't have any time. We don't have any time together. So it's really making that connection piece as important as a business meeting.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing.
Absolutely. But it's more than that, because you need to, there's also, I'm saying you should do both. You should actually spend time together, right? Whether that's having dinner together or, just doing something fun together, so that you can be able to tolerate these conversations. Because you can't just sort of be doing your own separate thing and then have these conversations. You need to actually be able to be with each other.
Right. And you need time to be able to have the conversation.
Right.
See, what I hear from a lot of couples, which is which just goes to some of what you're saying is, and I was jotting down something as you were talking, because I've done this whole series on infidelity and that I just finished.
Yeah.
And what I wrote down are three things. One is the business as a mistress.
Yes.
Number two, that it's really an emotional infidelity.
Absolutely.
For a lot of people.
Absolutely.
And really not the vulnerability, but the damage or the injury, that's what I was thinking. The injury to the relationship isn't that different just because it's about a business, is it?
No, it's not. In fact, I often hear, you often hear people talking about how your business is like your baby, right?
Right.
I say, yeah, your business is your baby, but your partner isn't the other parent. Right?
That's right. I love it.
And it's more like, when people, if you're a passionate, committed entrepreneur, as many therapists are, right? I mean, we love our work. We have deep connections with our clients. We, go the extra mile. It's like, people become in love, passionate, excited, lit up, fulfilled by their business. And guess what? It doesn't talk back to them. You get paid by it. There's a lot of, I don't know the brain, the neurological research. I don't think that it exists actually on what happens to an entrepreneur's mind, but I can't imagine it's that much different than when somebody has an affair or somebody has an addiction. I imagine the dopaminergic centers of your brain light up, all the rewards fling, and you get paid, and you have a new exciting prospect, and people throw themselves into this and neglect their relationships.
And there isn't the same up and down that comes with, we had this fight and now we have to heal and now we have to repair it. You don't have all of that going on. And the whole time management piece is really, I think, part of that risk, isn't it? Because one of the things I'm remembering is I have a couple that the issue was he's at work all the time, comes home finally. She's all excited about him coming home. And he's sitting down and doing billing. When he gets home because he didn't get it done. And then she goes, what about me? Where do I fit into this?
Right. And then she freaks out at him and gets angry and he's like, I got to go do some more billing.
That's right. Or they purposely find a way not to come home. because they know what's going to happen when they get home.
Yeah.
And how do you talk about that? And one of the things you were talking so very well is about the frustration and the anger. And how do you have people then have those conversations about the vulnerability in a soft, gentle way? Because if it comes out, I'm so vulnerable with you,
exactly.
No one's going there.
Right. It's
know,
like that relax thing.
That's right. So, how do you take these couples to a place where they really begin to see each other and begin to really recognize that the business is just about helping the family and helping the partner have better things, and that it's not instead of, it's in addition to.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, it goes back to really just slowing everything down and getting back to, getting to a place where partners can start to hear each other. They can start to, soften a little bit and sort of sink into that lower level of what's really happening. And once that communication starts, people start, they start listening up more, and they start saying, oh, I never realized that, I actually matter. Right. I mean, if,
a priority.
That you're doing this for me, really. Right. And when they realize that, when they can start having that conversation, and when they, oh, I actually didn't know that you're doing this for me, and you're not doing this because you want to get rid of me, right? I mean, it becomes a multi-layered thing where, there has to be changes just in terms of the time. There has to be, I mean, Gary Vaynerchuk, who is a, very well-known, hustling, super gung-ho entrepreneur, right? He's all over YouTube or whatever. He's all over, he's got a large following, and he's like, "Arr," right? He wrote a blog post last year that I was just so excited to read. And he called it "The Backbone of My Entrepreneurial Success." And it was about his wife, right? So this is some guy who's like, hustle, work all the time. And he talks about the importance of his relationship. And he says, when you're in love with someone, and I think this is a direct quote, but it's something like this. When you're in love with someone, that person has to take precedence over everything else. And so when we can have conversations with partners and have them start letting each other know that they're each other's number one, and that the business is really just for them and for each other and for the family, and when they can actually start believing that and seeing that, that's when everything becomes easier.
Right.
And that's also when, business owners can, be that much even better in business and take those bigger risks and, be that much more unafraid to do even better things with their work.
Right. Because someone has your back.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing that I've done a number of times that sort of you get this eye-opening reaction is I hear people saying, "I'm never thought about." Mm-hmm. The entire day he goes or she goes, and I want to make sure that we don't have my listeners think it's all about sort of the women complaining about the guys, because we also have female entrepreneurs and male entrepreneurs, and the issues really are the same as I'm concerned, but I'm never thought about. And what I say is, so I turn to the business owner and I say, so tell me, during your day, and sometimes they don't even realize it, which is an interesting thing. During your day, are there any thoughts about home? Are there any thoughts about your wife? She said, yeah, almost all the time. I'm working, but yeah, I wish I could be calling, or I'm thinking about what they're doing. And I say, have you ever told your partner this? And they said, well, no. I said, don't you think that would be really important here? Because, and then when they begin to have that conversation, both people become softer and more gentle.
Yeah.
Because it really is about, where do I fit into someone's life, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And it's like people don't recognize that just because, and again, this goes back to how we're taught. You don't need, right? Quote, and I'm putting up air quotes because I know this is audio.
No, that's okay.
We don't need to hear how much we're valued. We don't need to hear how important we are to the other person, or we don't need to tell the other person that, right? Mm-hmm. And so I mean, that's just such a game changer for someone to recognize when they were thinking, oh, they don't ever think about me at all. That's all that you're the only person on your partner's mind. That's really what's happening.
And what's more important than that?
Right.
Than knowing that even when your partner's at work, even when they're doing this, even when they're doing that, you are what matters.
Yeah.
And the other piece, I think, that when you talk about vulnerability, I think we probably want to highlight is the idea that I was talking earlier about sort of the fears, and that those fears is really about disappointing their partner. Mm-hmm. And that's the other piece that doesn't keep getting talked about, and that the partner has such a powerful presence because the partner really can make the difference whether or not the person feels like a success.
Absolutely.
Because without the relationship success, nothing really matters. Right.
Totally.
And so beautiful when you start thinking about it, that the two people in that relationship can really change everything for each other.
Absolutely. Well, and everything is there. That's the other piece, right? I mean, everything is already there. It's just a matter of putting words to it. It's just a matter of, showing each other that vulnerable side and letting each other know that, which is the part that, we think we have to do on our own. And that's when people start going to that worst case scenario in their head without even checking it out with their partner.
You just sound so genuine with these folks, which is really neat, because I think as therapists, sometimes we get this bad rap of, we're sort of these, we can do it all, we know it all, and that we're not real, and that we don't take a realistic perspective. And what I love about what you do and how you do it is that you really take people down a path that deals with the realities of life, which sometimes means things don't go very well.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and that's emotionally focused therapy, right?
Right. And the healing part is really where it's all about. It's not about the conflict.
It's not about the conflict. It's about the healing part. It's about being human.
Repair, I guess we should say. Not
the repair, absolutely. The coming together, the connection. And, we're all human. And that's sort of a cool thing, that it's not that complicated. I mean, it's difficult. It's certainly hard, but it's not complicated, right? Because we all get it. We're all human. And look, I was that person who was working, in my day job and then working at night, seeing couples, ironically coming home late, like, oh, hey, let's have some cereal for dinner and go to bed at 11.
Right.
I get it.
Right. How do you see the difference now? Because I had mentioned earlier that your primary focus right now is with the individual, in terms of one person being the entrepreneur, not the individual, but one person. Yep. What do you think the differences are if people are in business together?
I think the difference is that the business can still become this third entity that overtakes the relationship, just like a child might. So I guess the difference is that instead of having an affair, it's like a child.
Right.
Where
an infant.
An infant. Yeah, exactly. Right.
Not just a kid that you could send into the room.
Right. An infant that totally wedges out the rest of you. Right. An infant that never sleeps, that's always going, that you need to actually turn into a way to take. I mean, it can be very stressful, especially if it's a business. It's your sole income, right? Mm-hmm. So it can wedge the relationship out. So my advice to anybody who's in a relationship as any couple in a relationship, also in a business together, is that you need really, really, really good boundaries. It's not going to work unless you really are very clear about your boundaries.
Because all you'll talk about, you'll be the business
absolutely.
Too.
Right. Which is, that can be exciting. That can be great. That can be wonderful. But there has to be fun. There has to be connection. There has to be, above all, our relationship is more important than this other thing, because, things can get out of control. People can lose perspective. The money thing can overtake any couple in business for sure as well.
So if you were going to give, because we're getting ready to sort of start winding down, if you were going to give like 5 suggestions, or, 5, 3, whatever, something, that people can sort of hold on to and say, these are the main things that you need to pay attention to.
Yeah.
What would those be?
Okay. Well, I think the first is for any couple is that, I'm just going to say Gary Vaynerchuk's quote, when you are in love with someone, that person has to take priority over everything else.
Okay.
So you need to pay attention to that, and you need to let each other know. This is sort of goes back to what you were saying about when you ask the person, the partner, do you think about home? Do you think about your partner? Right? You need to tell each other. You need to not only have your partner be the number one priority, but you need to let each other know that. You need to let each other know you and me in our relationship are top. Right?
Okay.
So I might be hustling, I might be working, I might be scrambling. It's always about you, and you need to do that on a consistent basis. We forget, right? We all forget, so we all need to hear it repetitively. You can't ever do that too much. So that's another one. I think another big piece here is gratitude. There's been studies that show that couples who express gratitude to each other, well, there's been studies about individuals in gratitude, that people who use gratitude on a regular basis are happier, but couples who express gratitude to each other on a regular basis have longer and happier marriages. So that's another one. The time management for entrepreneurs is really, really key. You need to have boundaries, and it doesn't have to be rigid. It doesn't have to be, inflexible, but you need to have room for each other. Also, having a relationship, I see it as an extension of self-care, right? And if our cups aren't full, as business owners, as therapists, of course, we can't provide to our customers, our clients, whomever, right? And so the same is true. Being in a solid relationship is like filling up your tank. So it's really important that you make time for that.
And really, I think the last one that you just mentioned may even be the most important, because it really takes all of it into consideration, is filling up your relationship tank is really what you're talking about. Fill up the love, make sure that is really taken care of, and then the rest pretty much will follow.
Yep.
If you have that. And when you were talking about the time management piece, are you someone that would be a proponent of saying there's a certain time of day that you clock out?
I think it depends. I mean, I think that would really depend upon the individual, the couple, the family, what works on an individual. I think that's a very individual kind of thing. And it depends in terms of just how far off the beaten path in love people have gotten as well. So if that kind of structure, sorry?
No, I wanted to make sure you understood what I meant when I said clock out. Like when you get home, if you're doing business, that there's a time of day that you say, my business is now closed.
Right. No, I mean,
you were answering it that way.
Yeah. No,
okay. Go ahead.
That depends upon, if somebody's in the middle of doing a big launch, for example, right? Maybe not, but it depends on the situation. It depends also on, if somebody has never done that and their relationship is so far not a priority, I would say absolutely that's necessary. So it's like the kind of structure that somebody needs. It's like addiction, right? How much structure does somebody need? Do they need to go to an AA meeting every day, right? Do they need to call their sponsor every day? Or, is it something like, oh, you know what? I'm just not going to drink anymore. It depends on the level of...
Why don't you and I start a BA? Business Anonymous.
We really should.
Wait, do you know, it's really true. It's really true if you think about it.
That's such a good idea. Totally.
How many people would show up?
Right.
Is the question. No, I can't go because I'm too busy at work.
That's a great idea.
That's great. Well, anyway, thank you, Jeanette, for coming, really. Tell people how, if they want to get hold of you, what would the best way of doing that? And also, in your parting words, pretty much, what do you find sort of so valuable about this work?
Okay. If you want to get in touch with me, my website is mybestrelationship.com. And there's a contact form there if you want to get in touch. You can also find me on Facebook, facebook.com/mybestrelationship.
Yeah, I'll put all of that on the show notes.
All right, cool. And I have a Facebook group. You guys are welcome to join as well. Yep. Facebook. You'll put it on it's Thriving in Business and Love is what it's called.
Okay.
So what is the coolest part about this work? All right. I'm going to go a little bit crazy here for a second. So bear with me. Okay. There's a lot of talk about how we are all one, right? And I find that working with couples is the closest thing that we can do to really access that, because when two people are connected, when they're in synchrony with each other, when they're, really, it's just, Stuart, it's magic when you've got two people who are like the world's biggest enemies, and to help them come back together and get in touch with this sort of oneness of the universe, if you will, right? It's magic. So that's the coolest part, is just love in general, and really harnessing the power of love with everything we do.
And for me, I get on this soapbox sometimes, and I almost sound sort of like I'm out there. But I really do believe that if a couple can really have the kind of relationships that you work so hard to help these couples with, it changes the entire society and world. That security there could take away gangs, could take away war, could take away, because when everyone just feels that security, and that there's really that one person that's there for them, nothing matters more than that. And that positive emotion gets transferred to children, to grandchildren, and it really, now I'm sounding like I am turning 60, but, to really the whole world just really becomes better.
It's so true.
And that is what you do every day of your life and in your work life. And it's just been so wonderful to have you here. And I think my audience just has benefited so greatly by your presence and your caring and your kindness. So I really want to thank you for coming.
Oh, I want to thank you, Stuart, and right back at you. It's so cool to be talking with you. We're doing the same work, and I am with you 100%. It's changing the world. So Thank you so much for everything you do.
Thanks again. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Right. Bye.
Thanks for listening to today's episode with your host, Stuart Fensterheim. You're one step closer to reigniting that fiery passion with your partner. For more information and your 30-minute free phone consultation with Stuart, visit www.thecouplesexpertscottsdale.com. We'll see you next time.